All right, team, we're back with our friend David Harsani of National Review. He's telling us a little bit about his piece, or he's about to. Anti-majoritarianism isn't un-American. David, thanks for staying with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, so you talk here about Atlantic writer Adam Serwer's attack on Trump supporters, essentially saying that because they want judges, for example, that will defend their rights, that's not accountability to democracy. Walk us through this new trend in left-wing public intellectual thought and why it's basically crazy, but I'll let you put it in your own words.
Well, I mean, the new case against Trumpism is that social conservatives have sold their soul so because they can't sell their ideas through the democratic process, they will use undemocratic means, using Donald Trump to get what they want. This is kind of a ridiculous contention for one reason. That the biggest reason is that obviously Donald Trump was elected president. So it's not as if social conservatives haven't won anything. Conservatives ran the House and until recently, and they've run the Senate for years. They can win elections. This is all based simply on one popular vote. More that Trump never ran for, that's imaginary. But more than that, they believe that anytime the court strikes down something in their favor for religious liberty or gun rights or free speech, that social conservatives are using some kind of undemocratic system. Whereas Democrats, I mean, abortion, gay marriage, there's a whole litany of things in other cases that they've been upheld by the courts that they would never have had without the courts, yet they've never called those undemocratic. So I just think it's A, hypocrisy, and B, just simply untrue.
And, yesterday we talked a little bit here about the Elizabeth Warren promise to get rid of the Electoral College. Is this just shameless pandering from Warren? I mean, she does a lot of that. Or do you think that she would really, if she could, would she really want to do that?
I 100% believe she would want to do that if she could. I mean, there are efforts underway to get a bunch of states to sign a pact to throw away their votes to a popular vote and their electoral votes to a popular vote overall if they could. And I'm sure she would do it. I'm sure Bernie Sanders would do it. I mean, other people, obviously, I don't know what Joe Biden would do. But I just don't understand. So people tell me, that's never going to happen. Don't worry about it. You can still vote against Trump. Well, shouldn't I take what politicians say seriously? Meaning, they're telling me they want to overturn the system, but you're telling me that's what you're telling me Trump is doing, but these people are openly advocating for the very same things you're telling me Trump is doing that he's not. So it makes no sense to me.
Now, what is your best case for why we should keep the Electoral College, by the way?
Well, because we have 50 different states that deserve their, in a diffused democracy, deserve their own say rather than having California and New York running the country. If you had no electoral college, Trump would have run a different campaign. He'd be in New York, he'd be in California, pandering to those people with more liberal kind of ideas, and we'd have two states that mattered and a bunch of states that didn't. That's not how the founders envisioned the country.
Well, I certainly agree with that. I'm just wondering, what are your expectations for this Wednesday's judiciary hearing and impeachment?
Oh, gosh, I don't even know. I mean, I think you're going to have a lot of the same where the press is like, you can always tell where there's going to be a tweet that's just annoying and untrue when someone has to put wow when they first tweet, these reporters now do, or like 3 exclamation points. So you're going to get a lot of that, and then when you actually read what was said, it'll be more of the same. I just don't think anyone's mind is being changed here. I don't think presidential candidates love the idea of impeachment. And,
How do you line this? I mean, because I agree, by the way, I love seeing all these, and it's fun to guess at what some reporters are going to say about certain witnesses in this impeachment thing before they even say it, because it's really easy. Like, oh my gosh, Trump, this is the final, now he's gone too far. And then they end up writing it. I mean, these people have they're not only are they bad thinkers, they have no originality, which is really, really pretty annoying.
There's no skepticism about anything. I mean, I understand you don't like Trump, but show some skepticism towards both sides. I mean, that's what a good reporter should be doing.
Yeah, that's been totally abandoned. I want to ask about that, actually, because I think that people tend to look at Trump as this singular exposer of the media in a way that has never really been done before. I mean, I think there's some truth to that, to be sure. He goes after them in a way publicly and has a megaphone. They're not used to anyone ever having a megaphone that can match what they can do usually on the left, right? So Trump all of a sudden is at least able to meet them at a pretty equivalent level in terms of how many people he can reach and how he doesn't have to go through them in the same way. But I also, you mentioned Twitter and all the exclamation points. I think that Twitter is, in a sense, the death of, quote, nonpartisan journalism, because we just see all these journals all day long, like, what do they retweet? What do they like? What do they say? I mean, it's sort of like the DOJ thing where they say, well, there's lots and lots and lots of bias about the Hillary email thing, but we can't prove that any of those decisions were biased. It's just that there was people saying biased stuff. I feel like it's the same argument we get now with journalists, where it's anti-Trump screeds all day in the Twitter feed, either retweeted or shared or liked or written themselves. But then when they're covering the Capitol Hill stuff, it's like, well, we're honest brokers in this.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter has been a revelation in the sense of showing us what all these journalists are really like and what they think. They can't control themselves, and obviously, I don't know what that's like. I haven't had to control myself in that way for a long time, but they simply can't not retweet things. And once Trump does, start doing what he does, where he's just sort of pushes right back and says over the top stuff, they feel like now they can. They don't have to pretend that they're not completely biased. I mean, CNN runs an anti-Trump organization. They have no interest in any sort of other truth. So, I think that that's bad for the American people in a way, because we don't trust journalists anymore. But in another way, at least it tells us what the truth is, and that we can just deal with them in a more honest way. So that's what it is.
David Harsanyi, everybody. He approaches lots of things with skepticism, so that's the good news. He is not easily
I'm not easily swayed.
Easily swayed. Anti-majoritarianism isn't un-American. That's a National Review. David Harsanyi, thank you so much, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
There's no question that the far left thinks it is ascendant right now in our politics, and I think that they are on some solid ground in thinking so. You've got Sanders and Warren, who are socialists. They're socialists. We could sit around and talk about the nuances and the variations. They are socialists, and they are number 2 and 3 right now in all the polls. And that means, by the way, if you combined their numbers, it'd probably be, meaning if one of them drops out, it's probably going to be Bernie. But who knows? Maybe it's going to be Warren. He wants to see if he can outlast the lesser socialist, Elizabeth Warren. But that's another way of looking at this, so that we all understand exactly how left-wing the Democratic Party has gotten. And you even have some candidates now who are quite far left who will be running in 2020, including Mr. Cenk Uygur. And I do not know if I'm pronouncing his. I pronounce his first name because he's known as Cenk. I know that that's his name. I've talked to him before. Uygur. I'm not sure if that's how you say his last name, but I'm not trying to mispronounce it. That's lame. I just don't know how to say it. But he's running for Congress now, and he is, as some of you may know, the founder of the Young Turks, which is an online, probably the most far left. I mean, it's kind of like The Nation, which is a bunch of commies, were to found an online news program. They raised a whole bunch of money from a left-wing multi-millionaire or billionaire recently. So they're very well-funded socialists, which tends to be the case. People that love to benefit from the excesses of capitalism and then talk about, or rather just benefit from capitalism, and then like to talk about how they hate capitalism. I hope to one day be so rich that I can talk about how we shouldn't live in a society anymore where people can get rich. Let's close the door for everybody else. I want to be one of these rich people who's like, I don't think anybody else should be really rich, and therefore I am justifying my richness by saying that nobody else should be rich. That would be a fun, self-indulgent place to be, wouldn't it? I think there's no question about that. But the Young Turks is also employs some of the nastiest, dumbest, and most vicious and stupid left-wing talking heads in all of America. So they have that distinction. I mean, people who are just odious characters, as we have discussed before on the show. Bad people that are unworthy of respect or real discourse, people that are deserving of, and their stupid audience, by the way, as well, deserving of opprobrium. But Cenk is, he will engage, he will debate. So I at least will give him credit for standing up and being willing to exchange ideas with people on his socialism. He talked about Medicare for all, for example. And here is what the progressive Democrat candidate for, I don't know which district in California, says about Medicare for all. Play 14.
First of all, Medicare for all polls excellent. Second of all, when you guys say you'd lose your insurance, that is terribly wrong.
How?
You have insurance. Even Michael Bennett, who doesn't like
private insurance.
Okay, but you have better insurance. Chris, you've got it. No, not maybe. Definitely. I asked Michael Bennett, Senator Michael Bennett, who does not like Medicare for all. He said Medicare for all would be the Cadillac plan. He said, yes, you get everything with Medicare for all. You get better insurance. There's no question about that.
Cenk doesn't understand how markets or economies work, apparently. What he's referring to here is the promise, the absurd promise, by the way, of Medicare for all. And I think this is the Bernie Sanders version. It might be the Warren version, but, potato, that says that everything, vision, dental, everything would be under this Medicare. It would, in fact, be much more than Medicare. Now, keep in mind, Medicare is the one thing that threatens to collapse our entire economy as our debt continues to spiral out of control. But we're told, let's make that a lot bigger, a lot bigger. Here's the problem with having everybody on the same plan. I'll give you a perfect example, actually. I tried to make an appointment with a specialist in New York City earlier in the week, right? Got to just tend to some buck health issue. And I was told the wait was 2 months. I have insurance, by the way. And this is a doctor that doesn't take insurance, but you can, of course, submit afterwards and all the rest of it. 2-month wait. And that's a doctor who's not even in insurance market. Just wait until you're under your plan. Everybody else in the whole country is supposed to be effectively on the same plan. Do you think you're going to be able to see the doctor you want to see? No, of course not. How do you determine who gets to see what doctor and when? Everyone's paying the same. Everyone's network is the same. Every doctor is the same. This is, by the way, this is like full-on socialist medicine we're talking about here. Determining everything other than the training of doctors and the provision of, but they'll have to add that into this, because what happens is that there are no market signals to determine whether or not somebody can see a doctor in a certain time frame. There are no market signals to make that designation, that determination. So what does? The state does. So sure, that they'll pay for your doctor visit, just like they will in Canada, just like they will in the UK, and you'll wait 6 to 9 months for it, maybe a year. You know what happens most of the time? People find out what the wait is, and they go see a different doctor, a doctor they don't particularly want to see. The practitioner matters. These are goods and services. People are making decisions and determinations. The entire system gets better when good doctors are rewarded, when good doctors can charge more. Also, smarter and better people in the future will want to go into medicine because they know they can be rewarded for this. The incentive structure in the medical system is wiped out in Medicare for all. Everyone's paid the same. Everyone gets the same. Do you want that to be the case? No, I want to live in a country where I can choose the doctor that I see and see him in a reasonable, or her in a reasonable time frame. The only way that these systems that do even less than Medicare for all, the only way they provide care is through rationing and waits. They tell you how much you can get. They tell you when you can get it. By the way, what also will be included in this? Do people are if you want to go see a shrink, a psychologist, psychiatrist, do you get to go every day? It'd be very, very expensive. Who's going to pay for this? How much is determined? At some point, the reality sets in where you can't just have people getting whatever they want, because if people get whatever they want, there won't be enough for people to get. Without a market in place to incentivize better, more efficient, faster care, and to bring more people into the medical system so that there are more goods and services to be distributed, this whole thing falls apart. It's going to be better than your current insurance plan. Good luck with that. The Cadillac of plans. This is snake oil that you are being sold. It is a lie. It is a fiction. unless they're willing to say middle-class taxes will go up dramatically, which they will have to, just to make the math work, and unless they're willing to say that, yes, you will see the doctor that the government says you're allowed to see in the time frame the government determines, they are lying to you. They can point to any other major state-operated medical system in the developed world, and those are the realities that we are dealing with. That's it. So just, Medicare for all, yes, someone's going to pay for all your health care. This is state intrusion into 1/5, 1/6 roughly of the economy in a way that will then lead to, by the way, further socialized industries and sectors of our economy. This does not get better. This only gets worse. Ooh, breaking news. Breaking news. You know how in the last hour of the show, I said, when is Kamala going to call it quits? I think I said that, didn't I? Or I was at least making fun of her terrible campaign. Kamala Harris is out. It's just happened. She's out. No longer running for president. I think Bloomberg showing up and being ahead of her right away in the polls, I think that was a little bit more than even her campaign could manage to deal with. Now that, I think she's polling about, 4 or 5% in some of the polls I've seen. That sounds about right. So I wonder where those votes will go. Probably to Biden, but maybe not. I do think the pressure is going to really mount for, here's the way that they do it. Elizabeth Warren says that, the realistic way would be for Bernie Sanders to offer Elizabeth Warren the VP slot and then create like a socialist dynasty going forward. But I don't know if Elizabeth Warren's willing to accept that. So it is worth a, we'll see how this plays out. Kamala Harris is out, though, everybody. A campaign that the media wanted to work so badly. And there was always a media superficiality behind a lot of that. They just thought that Kamala should be because they thought, it should work for Kamala. And the reality is that she's just not a particularly talented politician. Not somebody who was ready for this. Not somebody who was big league enough. And also, I think Tulsi Gabbard was kind of the Kamala spoiler a little bit. I think Tulsi Gabbard got in there and made it really hard for Kamala to get any momentum, even with the media all pushing behind her, all the media efforts to do everything that they could do. It was not enough. It was insufficient. So Kamala Harris is out, as though the Almighty heard from Buck's lips to God's ears that Kamala Harris was not gonna win the presidency. So today's the day that the Kamala Harris campaign calls it quits. Don't cry too much, team. It's that time of year, my friends. People are now allowed to play their Christmas music because it's post-Thanksgiving. We know only barbarians play Christmas music before Thanksgiving. But now they're allowed. So, I was telling you, I was in a taxi yesterday, and the guy was blasting some Christmas music. And I felt like such a Grinch because I was just like, really? I'm sitting in traffic with just this, I don't know. I like Christmas music in limited doses, and I like it basically the week of Christmas. But then I'm not that. But I don't know. What do you like? Do you like Hanukkah tunes?
I mean, I think we discussed with Mark. There's maybe
three. That's right.
If you count Adam Sandler, maybe.
But so as a non-Christian,
Sure.
what do you think of Christmas music, just as a genre?
As a genre, there are some good ones that are just good musical songs. Although my favorite is probably Alvin and the Chipmunks. So I don't know what that says about me.
There we go. So it's also the time of year you got to think about getting people presents. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but there's a very fancy stationary bike company out there called Peloton or Peloton. I think it's actually just Peloton, but I like to do it the French way because it sounds fancier. Peloton released an ad just in time for people to get. I think these bikes are I know they're many thousands of dollars. I think they run somewhere in the like $10,000 to $15,000 range. Very expensive, okay? But when you could also just buy a bicycle or an old, I don't know, or an old school stationary bike. I remember my grandfather had one at his house here in New York, and the thing looked like it was from the 50s, and, get on there and pedal.
Yeah.
Go and pedal to your heart's content. But now Peloton is a very fancy bike, and they put out this commercial that has gotten people totally outraged. I think I need to describe a little bit. So you're going to hear a female voice, and this female that is starring this commercial is aesthetically perfect. She is beautiful. She is slender. She's clearly a model. And this is the commercial in this incredible house. But this woman looks like she's probably about, 27 years old. I love all the ads where they got people in their 20s living in like, $1 million homes. Because, who doesn't? People should have seen where I lived when I was like 28 years old. I had like 3 roommates living in the basement of some place in the village. Anyway, play Peloton.
Now.
A Peloton? Give it up for our first time ride.
All right, first ride. I'm a little nervous, but excited. Let's do this. 5 days in a row. You surprised? I am. 6 a.m. Yay.
Rising with the sun.
That was totally worth it.
Let's go Grace in Boston. 50 rides.
She just said my name. A year ago, I didn't realize how much this would change me. Thank you.
This holiday, give the gift of Peloton.
So there is this. People have flipped out about this because you have this aesthetically, physically perfect, idealized woman who's like, I'm so nervous to ride a stationary bike in the privacy of your own home. I mean, that's okay, I guess, but it seems, trust me, this woman has read, she's worked out plenty in her day. This is not her first time. And then I don't know how much it would change me. Now,
what changed?
Right.
What changed?
People are being, and Brandon and I are talking this, people are being a little sensitive about this. It is the case, and I have seen this in action once or twice in my life. It is the case where, especially as a male, if you give any kind of fitness-related equipment as a Christmas gift to a female in your life, producer Brandon, this could backfire dramatically.
You probably would be hit with that piece of equipment.
Yeah, they do. They do not. It's not a thing that they get excited about.
No, it's offensive unless she asked for it.
Is it offensive?
I mean,
if somebody said, "Buck, I'm gonna give you for a Christmas gift, I'm gonna give you like a dozen sessions at a personal trainer," I'd say it's fantastic. I need it.
I guess it's different. I mean, if you know the person, perhaps, and maybe she's seen the other commercial for Peloton, and she's like, "Oh, I want this," and the husband gets it for her.
Right. If she's been explicit,
we need a
that she wants it.
backstory.
Okay,
we need a prequel to the commercial.
But it kind of reminds me of what at the wedding in the office where Jim and Pam are having their the rehearsal dinner.
Yeah.
And then the Jim's 2 brothers stand up and they yell out to their wives, Pam's looking good. How about you ladies? Time for a little mo cardio, which would not go over well. No. I would not recommend anyone say that to their wife or anybody for that matter. That would not go over well. But this Peloton commercial got a lot of people really agitated, I would say. And if you watch it, it makes even more sense because you're like this idealized existence. She's like, oh gosh, like my Peloton bike has changed me so much. She looks like she went from about 107 pounds to 107 pounds
right
in this commercial.
And who is she filming for? The arrogance bothered me too. As soon as she walks in the door, she's shooting a selfie of her talking about going on the bike. As soon as she wakes up, the camera's right in her face.
I will tell you, I live in a building here in New York where they have a gym in the building, and they do in fact have a Peloton in there. So I might have to try this now just so I can give you, from the front lines of Peloton, I can give you my assessment as to whether or not this is life-changing. And I can use a lot of, I should spend an hour a day on a Peloton bike. I got to work out more.
It's because there's a video that you can do it with other people around the world. Is that what makes it so expensive? You can watch?
Yeah, I think so. It's
okay.
Like they have like a video and
like a video class.
It like tracks you and it's all metric-y and things like that. I don't know. That's just kind of this is what the people say. But see, I take the position, this is, and I know that people will say, "Oh, Bach, that's terrible." And by the way, anything that we advertise on this show as a gift, you should definitely get because they're amazing. But in my family, among the adults, I give gifts to people that do work for me, people that are in my life. That especially if people really, in New York, you're superintendent of the building because everyone here lives in buildings where there tend to be a staff that takes care of the building. You give those people a gift for Christmas, cash usually. I do all that for sure. But among family members, I just think that especially because I'm one of 4 kids and my 2 parents, there's 6 of us. It's just such a hassle. I got to get at least 5 presents. And if I have a significant other, has been the case in the past. If I have a significant other, I got to get that person a gift. And that one has to be expensive, of course. It's all such a hassle. Why can't we all just be together and celebrate the holiday for what it's really about?
I agree.
The birth of Jesus, not commercialism. Thank you very much. So, I just think that that's where we should be as a society. I call it going Grinch. Do it with a smile. It's the way to go. And with that, roll call time.
It's time for roll call.
It is time for roll call. Let's get into the Facebook posts here, and we get to it. John, Shields High, real news fan. Pocahontas said a democracy should work by popular vote, and to call her old-fashioned for thinking that way. Maybe I'm a little rusty on my history, but I don't recall America ever being a democracy where elections were decided by popular vote. Well, John, it's even more interesting than that in some ways, because if you go back to the origins of the concept of democracy, which we tend to think is ancient Greece, in ancient Greece, only a very small number of the actual people living in the polis, in the city-state, were able to vote. It's not like in ancient Athens, they walked around and every adult was given the right to make a determination. It was actually a very, very small group of citizens who were established, who were landholders, who had some degree of sway in affairs. And it was definitely not women, and it was not slaves. There were slaves in ancient Greece, lots of them. It was a small percentage overall of the population that would have been able to vote. So it's interesting that we now think of democracy as every person who is an adult gets to vote, but that's really a more modern innovation. It was not the case before. As we know, women's suffrage did not become a thing until pretty recently. Brian writes, Buck, I enjoy your analysis and your ability to articulate. I think you may be off on a couple of predictions, though. Uh-oh. First, I don't think they're going to vote to impeach for the simple fact that they don't want to risk Trump getting a fair trial. If they did, I'd almost want Republicans to go along with it so that this mess can be handled properly and watch Democrats scramble as all their dirty laundry goes on display. But with the IG report coming out, it may not be necessary. Second, I do believe Trump will go scorched earth on Democrats after the report comes out. He has said repeatedly that this should never be allowed to happen to another president. And one way to ensure that it doesn't is to hold people accountable and exact harsh consequences. Trump isn't one to bluff. This will be a very interesting election year for sure, Shields High. Well, Brian, we'll get to see who's right on these predictions. I'll probably have to revisit them, and we'll see who's correct. I'm telling you, they're going to impeach him. But you're saying no. I'm saying yes. And then on to Trump going scorched earth on Democrats after the report comes out. I don't see how that would happen. What's he going to do? He's going to fire civil service employees even after there's been an Inspector General report that does not recommend their firing. I don't know, Brian, what that accountability would even look like if Trump wanted to do it. Now, that said, I could be wrong. It has happened before. Seldom, but it has happened. So that is a possibility that we should be aware of. We'll have to take a look at it. We're looking at that, as Trump likes to say. We're looking at that. He says that about a lot of things. Adam, Buck, pot roast, if done correctly, is amazing. Cook it low and slow. Tenderness is key. Shields high. Well, Adam, thank you so much, man, for sending that. I appreciate it. Yeah, man, I will have to check out some pot roast. And next thing, we got Paul. Buck, you know what strikes me as hilarious about this whole Get Trump era? If they'd stuck with their very first original premise for investigation, they probably could have nailed him. Everyone forgets the earliest investigations of him were for ties to organized crime. I guess they thought Russian collusion tested better. Keep it up. Shields high. All right, Paul. I mean, I don't think that they're going to get Trump on anything, but I do appreciate the outside the box thinking. Let's see what we got here. Oh, I wanted to get into. I tend to go to the Facebook because it's easy, but I also want to look at what we got in the Team Buck. Team Buck at iHeartMedia.com. That's the email address. You want to send things to us there. Ken writes, "The Buck don't stop. Can I contribute a nightly feature to the show? 1,000 things we all should know. Try these out amongst your staff and see how they like it. Yawning is caused by a warm brain. Only one Wait, what? Okay, thank you, Ken." Whatever. We got another Ken, a different Ken. Let's see. Friday, the president declared the cartels as terror groups. I suspect that Trump has ordered a kind of Sicario CIA action. With your contacts, you should suss it out. Okay, Ken. Yeah, I'll take a look. Let's see what we get here. Here you go. We get next up somebody talking about how the audio is wrong. I don't understand what we're doing differently or wrong with the audio. I don't know. That's got to be somebody else's to look into that. Harry writes, "Buck, you might want to check out the 3rd season, 5th episode of The Crown entitled Coup. It concerns the attempt by conservative persons to recruit Lord Mountbatten to replace Harold Wilson's socialist government after the massive devaluation of the pound and further deterioration of the British economy in 1967. I think that's the correct year. Yes, it is slow, but an interesting take on conservative socialist politics of the time." By the way, I think it's hilarious no one gets that America was nearly as socialist under FDR as the USSR during World War II. Shields high, Harry. Yeah, man, there's a lot more socialism out there than people realize. That is true. Mark from New Zealand. Team Buck New Zealand in the house. "Hey, Buck, Shields high from New Zealand. Been a follower since our government started contributing tens of millions of dollars in our taxes to Shrillery and the Dems. Is nobody safe from the progressives? Fight for the First and Second Amendment rights. We get told regularly we have no rights, just the privilege the government allows us. Shields high." My friend Kiwi Mark from New Zealand. Kyle writes, "Dear Buck, don't be too eager to settle down and get married. You will turn into one of 2 versions of your former self. Buckless Sexton or Buck Sexless." That's pretty good. Kyle. I don't know. Kyle might get email of the day with that one. I don't know. I can either confirm or deny because I've never been married. There's something somewhere on the internet says that I'm married. I've never been married. I don't know why this comes up sometimes. I've never been married. I don't know. I've never been engaged, never been married. Hoping one day. Let's see what we get here. We have Rocky. Let's have a happy Thanksgiving, Buck. Rocky from Nebraska. Shields high. Big hug. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. We get more people writing about unequal audio levels. Producer Brandon, what is this? We got like 10 emails about unequal audio levels. What is going on here?
That I can't tell you, because when I put it in, or Mark puts it in, it's all level. So we might have to ask an engineer.
Do I need to get you like a special gift so that you'll actually make the audio good for the audience, so they won't do this anymore?
Perfect, just like that woman from the bike commercial.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's something we could bribe producer Brandon with so that he actually makes sure the audio is good. Then we'll have to bribe producer Mark, too, because when he comes back from the beach. But you'll notice, have you gotten any selfies of him on the beach? I have not.
No.
So, I don't think producer Mark is thinking about the Freedom Hut enough right now. He's just, look at me. I'm, drinking pina coladas and getting sun and enjoying my life. There's freedom to spread. Darn it. That's right. It's very important for everybody to remember that. Also important for you to remember your orders until next time. Shields Eye.